Hello there. Welcome to Fridays with Tab and Chance. I am Tabitha Brown. This is my amazing husband.
I'm Chance, what's up?
Bring the beat in. Fridays, Fridays, Fridays with Tab and Chance. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Fridays, Fridays, Fridays with Tab and Chance. Look at Donna getting in. Because I felt when I did the bump, bump, bump that she did that. So, what was that part?
That's the hurry up.
Babe, don't do that. Babe, do you know how much I love you? Mwah. I love you enough to have married you, took your last name, exchanged vows, and in those vows, there's
You
one
know what?
part.
There was a little part right there when the way you said took. I like share. I like share better. You share my last name because you kind of put a little emphasis on took.
But I took your last name on.
Yeah, but but the way you just said it, it was kind of.
I mean, I don't know if we really shared the
name.
last name. Because sharing means like you shared it with me.
I shared it with
hey,
you.
man, I got some. I'm just going to share it with you. I took your last name.
The way your K come off though, it sounds kind of like aggressive. Took.
Or you gave me your last name. Do that sound better?
I like.
That's a
little bit better.
Is it took your last name, shared the last name, gave the last name,
I'm okay with took. I just don't like the way
released
you
my
say
maiden name for you? How about I released being a Thomas?
That almost sounds like.
My daddy worked hard.
Oh my God.
For 48 years he worked at that mill.
All right. Hey, look, took this.
Providing for our family and
is fine.
Raising me.
Took is fine.
Out in the country.
Took is fine. I don't need a whole lecture about your
raised
daddy
me up as a Thomas.
and how he worked and
I took and released his name and decided to share the name that you gave me, Brown, with you. Is that better? Is that how you wanted it to be?
Yeah, that's fine, baby.
Okay, so listen, we talking about vows, right? What those mean. But one part in particular, because, I guess two parts, like for better or for worse, but in sickness and in health.
Yeah.
And so this weekend, or last week rather, when y'all see this, Chance was on the Black Love Summit panel, the husband's panel, and you did very good. How'd you feel about it, babe?
I feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel good. I'm definitely a little bit more relaxed with the idea of getting up in front of people. So,
yeah.
It's cool.
You did good. He was using his words. I ain't gonna cut up today. But somebody asked a question about grieving, right? Someone had just lost their mother, right? He had lost his mother, and they were just talking about how we support each other in grieving. So it made me realize that sometimes when people hear in vows, in sickness and in health, they think that just means their partner. Like if my partner gets sick, I'm gonna take care of them. But in sickness and in health also means how you partner together if your parents get sick or when they get sick or your children get sick, right? Sisters, brothers, all of that, how you support each other, right, babe?
Exactly.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about it in sickness and in health, because we've had a bout with all of it. I feel like.
Absolutely. Well, I know when we got married, it was uncharted territory. Marriage in a whole was uncharted territory for me. I didn't really have a lot of examples, so all I thought about was what we were currently doing. So for the first 5 years that me and Tab were together, it was just me and Tab. My bond with her was the only bond that I really cared about. It was a survival type thing. So after we got married, when we went into our marriage, I went into it with that thinking. Of course, I heard as we were doing our vows, I hear it like most men. You in sickness and in health, and I'm just waiting for him to finish and say I do. But I'm not taking it in. I'm not taking it
Young.
in. It wasn't until after we were married and your mom, took ill that I was really faced with it, and then it's at that point where you not only faced with it, but now you got to deal with it, right? But and if you didn't consider it, you're not familiar with it. A lot of times, and a lot of times you don't respond well. And I know in my case, my response was, all right, I'm just gonna stay focused on the household work, do things that me and Tab have done for one another, and that wasn't enough, right? It was, looking back on it, I wish that I would have been able to be a little bit more emotionally connected to my wife and her mom in the situation for her.
Well, I think what happens too is, and I know specifically, for me, I had dealt with death my whole life, right? I've had a lot of people die in my family from a very young age. And so and I'm also one of them weird people who are just very comfortable with death.
Yeah.
And
Well,
because my mom
I'll come
always
back to that.
my mama always talked to me about death, right? And I just remember being like 8 years old when my mama's like best friend passed away, and she died with a smile on her face. And I remember thinking, wow, it must be so beautiful on the other side of death. Like it must be a beautiful place because she looked so happy. And that was the first like real introduction and conversation about death with my mom, and we would always talk about it. But then also like losing like, aunts and uncles and my grandma, my granddad. Like I lost pretty much all generations back to back in like a 1 year time, like on my mama and my daddy's side. And that was when we were young, we in our 20s. So I think me already understanding like death is going to happen, it still didn't really prepare me for the sickness part because they died. Like they didn't get sick and then have a long bout of being sick. It's like they might have got sick or either they just died instantly, like massive heart attacks and things like that. But he had never experienced anything like that in his family. So I think when you have never had a personal experience with sickness or death, sometimes you don't know what to do, right? But because of that, you said something really good this weekend. It doesn't give you an excuse to do what?
Nothing. In hindsight, of course, after experiencing it and looking back on it, my advice to the couple who asked the question and to the entire crowd was just because you haven't experienced it or you don't know how to deal with it doesn't give you an excuse to do nothing.
Right.
If this is a person that you love and and this is your spouse, you got to figure it out, do something, and that's what I wish that I could tell myself. You know what I mean? Looking back on it, but
And when we talk about doing something, because some people right now could be watching us and thinking, but what is the something, right? Sometimes it's just your presence and sitting with the person, having compassion with them, even if you don't know what to say.
just be it.
Just this, like, you know what I'm saying? Just being close, making sure they eat, right? Also, maybe trying to find something for them to laugh at to take their mind off of things. Sometimes, if they do want to talk about it, just listening.
That's one that always kind of. So, Tab's mom played an interesting role in my life. She was the first person that I did not share real blood with who took a real interest in me. One of the first people who ever sat down and really conversated with me outside of my own mom. So I had a surprising relationship to me, especially when I would hear other people talk about their mother-in-laws, and I'm like, nah, that's not what I had at all. I honestly feel like Tab's mom was an angel. And when she was taken away from us, I was hurting. I didn't know how to say that because I had never experienced it. And I dealt with the pain the way that I was used to dealing with pain, covering up, running from it, not talking about it. So when Tab wanted to talk about it, I wasn't available. Of course I would hear her if she talked. I'm not saying I literally would walk out of the room or anything. I'm saying I didn't open up. And I didn't open up and show real emotion to help her get through her emotion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But now looking back at it, I understand it, but if I had to give anybody advice on it, just learn. We talked about this too, about communication.
Yeah.
Learning and being willing to communicate at your partner's level, what they need, not just, at your level. But yeah.
Yeah.
You crying now. So
Listen, grieving it happens different for everybody, right? And when you have like for me, my mama was given she had a terminal disease. So we knew she was going to die. So grieving started even during the journey of her sickness, right? I had already began to grieve. So I was trying to process her sickness at the same time of processing that she was going to die, which is a form of grieving, right? But I do also remember Chance just did not want her to be sick, right? I remember you thinking like, or saying, she too good, she shouldn't be dying. And he just didn't want to believe that she was going to die. So I feel like that was also how you dealt with it, with hoping that she didn't die or like that she was going to get better, right? So that happens to a lot of people. Like sometimes you don't want to believe it to be true. My stepfather at the time, his grievance going through, he was angry because she got sick and he couldn't fix it. And going through it, I didn't understand that. And I talk about this in my book, and I was angry with him. But after going through it and understanding more, I realized, and my mama, even on her, in her last day, she would always tell me, Tab, listen, everybody handles death differently. You always got to remember that, right? Grieving, sickness, everybody handles it different. And so we were so young, and I was so mad at him. But as I have gotten older and have a better understanding, and both of us, we've talked about it so much, which is why, of course it makes me emotional because I just know how much he loved my mama, and my mama listen, Chance can do no wrong. Mama might put me out and keep Chance, but we loved her so much. So his way of handling things was also almost kind of like out of sight, out of mind. If I don't have to talk about it, if I don't have to think about it, it's not happening, right? Even at the expense of me being in the house, sometimes suffering, by myself. He couldn't really see my suffering because he was trying to do the out of sight, out of mind, stay busy on something else. And so because we've been through that, I was like, this is a perfect conversation because somebody else might be going through this right now.
and if they're not going through it right now,
it will come.
It will happen. This is going to happen at some point.
And that's with death.
Yeah.
Right?
Death is,
But with sickness, it came back like full circle with me getting sick myself. Right? I was sick for a year and a half, and this is I want y'all to hear me very clearly. Because of what we went through with my mama, right? For probably the first 6 or 8 months of me being sick, I never told Chance how sick I felt. I was scared to tell him how sick I really was, how many times I was really going to the doctor, what was really happening when I went to the doctor. And so I had to do a lot of that by myself. I didn't have to. It was a decision I made because I was scared of how he might react, right? It wasn't until, and I know I talked about this before, the night of me going to the bathroom and I collapsed. And I probably stayed on that floor for maybe 15, 20 minutes. It felt like an hour trying to get up, and I couldn't. I just didn't want to wake him up to come and get me. He had to come and pick me up to put me back into the bed. That's when I had to finally say, this is what's happening, right? I'm a little bit sicker than what I'm letting on. But then every doctor's appointment, when I felt like I'm gonna die, because also when you deal with sickness with a parent and you see them go through things, there's something that this mind does that tells you you're gonna get the exact same thing. And I remember my fear of I'm gonna have ALS just like my mama, and telling him like that's what I was afraid of. And he was my person telling me, no, you're not, babe. This is not gonna happen to you. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna get through this. We're gonna figure it out. And it was like I had been battling it by myself, but it was like something, it helped lift a little bit, knowing that, oh man, I was hiding it, but I could have told him. So somebody else may be dealing with that, right? How did you feel about knowing that like I had been hiding it?
Well, it hurt my feelings, but I understood why, because you explained it to me. I remember when you explained it to me, and you made a reference to your stepdad, and I was hurt by it, but I couldn't say anything, because I knew what I had done or what I had failed to do when we were going through it. So it I mean, but as a response, I felt motivated. I felt like I had a job to do, and this was an easy assignment for me, right? This was because I love you, right? And I'm like, nah, I don't have the excuse anymore. I've went through it before, learned from my mistakes, and there's no other motivation than my wife, than to be there. So.
We got through.
We got through.
So yeah, I just thought this would be a very good conversation.
Ooh, this is tough.
I know. Didn't know we was gonna get emotional in here on this day.
This is tough.
But Thanksgiving is coming up, and so when you start thinking of the things that we're thankful for, because that's what we celebrate in Thanksgiving, is what we're thankful for. I'm thankful for my vows, right? I'm thankful for my husband. But I'm also thankful for sickness. I'm thankful for death. I'm thankful for grieving. I'm thankful for that space that allows us to be alive, to go through it all, right? Because it allows us to be able to have these type of conversations. And that's how healing takes place.
And God's grace.
And God's grace.
Your grace. Because a lot of people, a lot of women or men in those situations wouldn't have been able to give their spouses grace. That's her mom or someone's dad or an extended family member. And if you don't show up, sometimes we can't, you know what I mean? Sometimes you can't see what we have learned or been able to see or understand. So,
yeah. Or your
I'm super
children.
thankful for that. Yeah.
Right? Because we've had to do that, with our son with some health issues that he has. And it's tough. Mm-hmm. It's very tough when it comes to your children. And sometimes when your child is sick, as parents trying to do it together, you kind of bump heads. Right? Because both of y'all want to fix it. But you got to find the common ground so y'all can go through it together strong for your child. So, that's it.
Yeah, we got to close this
I
one
know.
out.
Listen, have these uncomfortable conversations because they will help you. Yeah, they will. In sickness and in health, honey. And till death do us part. So that's it, y'all. Happy holidays. We're in the holiday season, so happy Thanksgiving next week. Y'all be good. We love y'all. And listen, it's also a great time during the holidays when families together. Have some real conversations. Don't just keep it light and fun. Although it should be light and fun. But also, a lot of times we ignore or we sugarcoat, keep things surface because we don't want to deal. Mm-hmm. I encourage y'all, have some real conversations this holiday season. All right? Anything else, babe?
Nah, that's it. I done had enough.
I love you.
Love you too.
All right. Y'all gonna about y'all business and have the most amazing day. But even if you can't have a good one, don't you dare go messing up nobody else's here. Love y'all. Bye.